Hello to my beautiful Holistic Script podcast mom community. This week's podcast episode I'm excited for it. It's a great one for you to use to leverage for yourself, and it is going to be like an umbrella topic, I guess I'll say, of self-care. And I call it an umbrella topic because it is such a large topic. Self-care is so huge and it encompasses so many things. But basically, what it really is just any activity that you do that supports your emotional, your mental, and your physical health, right? And that's basically something that you do to strengthen your relationship with yourself. That's it. And you heard it correctly that I said any activity that you do. It's essentially think of it like a personalized wellness program, right? Designed for you by you. That's what self-care is. One person might find it, that cooking for their family and making them a nutritious, delicious meal and sitting down for dinner, that's beautiful and nourishing and self-care for them. And another mom might feel like exercising, reading, going out with her friends is what they need to restore themselves. So it couldn't be so different. But those activities that you do that are for you like that are what I call your holistic scripts. They're the blueprint to what you need to essentially take care of and support you in showing up as your best and most authentic self. So that being said, right, your first and most important job when you are listening to this podcast episode is to highlight and to acknowledge the things that you are already doing as self-care. Okay, so many times we, as moms, we think we don't do enough, and we minimize what you do because you're like, that's not enough. I didn't do the laundry. That's not enough. I didn't do enough today. My to-do list is still long. I didn't do enough, right? Or maybe you're thinking I don't do my skincare every day, so I must not be doing self-care. Or I didn't journal today, and I know that journaling is a part of self-care, and I didn't journal today, so I must not be doing self-care. And we're hard on ourselves, right? And I want you to use those examples, but insert whatever it is that you think you should be, quote, doing, whatever expectation it is that you have on self-care into that sentence. And for this podcast and moving forward, drop that expectation. Drop it completely. Because this podcast episode is about you acknowledging and highlighting what it is that you already do for self-care. And I'm going to be talking about 6 different types of self-care. Yes, there are 6 different types. Okay? And I want you to see some of your daily habits that you do and reframe them differently in your mind as self-care, because that is what they are for you. Okay, so that is step 1 of this podcast. When you are listening to it and I'm going through all of the 6 different types of self-care, you are going to listen to them and say, oh, I do that, and acknowledge. Give yourself a little hug, give yourself a pat on the back, acknowledge that that's what you already do, right? And then step 2, while you're listening to these 6 different types of self-care and different ways that you can create this blueprint for yourself, is to ask yourself, what do you want more of in your life? What would make you feel more fulfilled? What is your body telling you that it needs more of? Listen to what your mind says, listen to what your body is being like drawn to when we're going through those different types, and hone in on what you already do and what you desire, what you crave to do. And that, my beautiful mamas, is your holistic script for self-care. Okay, so the first is, let's get into it, emotional self-care. Now this one really, I'm going to say it goes deep, because processing emotions can be hard to do, especially if you have been conditioned to shut down when you feel emotion. Maybe you've been conditioned to ignore your emotions, or certain types of emotions you've been conditioned to ignore. Maybe you've been conditioned to, like, say anger is not okay, feeling resentment's not okay, crying is not okay, right? And what can happen when you don't acknowledge that you're feeling these emotions is that they tend to quietly grow within you. They like fester because you're not seeing them, and they're like, but I'm here, and you're not seeing them, and they're like, but I'm here, and they keep getting bigger, and they tend to grow quietly. And what happens is they'll spiral out of control, and they'll spill out into your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your spouse, your relationship with your friends, your professional relationships, your relationships with your family, your relationship with yourself. They can manifest as like shame, maybe even resentment, maybe like rage or anger. They can manifest as criticism towards people around you, like projecting that criticism towards them or even towards yourself, right? And whenever you see yourself like doing those, like I call them like snaps, like kind of snapping, and that's like a breaking point, know that that's your body telling you, hey, there's something going on here. There's something brewing. Like there's something starting to build up, you know? So if you know that emotional self-care is something that you need to kind of like work on, if this is sounding like something that you that resonates, you know, with you, some things that you can try to do and create habits around are things like journaling, specifically like gratitude journaling, like being grateful for things that are happening in your life or things that you are doing. And it can be anything. Again, I want to lift the expectation for you that it doesn't have to be like, I am grateful for, I don't know, whatever this, I don't know. It doesn't have to be something huge. It can be something like, I am grateful that I had 5 minutes in the morning to sit down and have my coffee. And my coffee was hot. And I enjoyed my coffee hot, and I didn't have to reheat it. Like, that is gratitude, my friends. That's it. You know, meditation is another thing. You can work with a coach to move through your emotions, learn how to like experience and feel them and move through them. And also therapy too, of course, depending on how something needs to be processed, you know, for you. So emotional self-care is huge. And notice if it's something that you already do, because that's, again, so huge. Noticing your emotions and being able to move through them. Okay? All right. Next up, number 2 of 6, mental self-care. Now, mental self-care, I want to differentiate, is different than emotional self-care. Because mental self-care focuses on like mental stimulation, stimulating your brain, pushing your brain, challenging your brain, learning new things, like reading or listening to a book, listening to a new podcast, doing brain teasers, Wordle, crossword puzzles, even trying out a new hobby. Possibly, let's see what else I can think of, professional growth. Like maybe you're going for another degree within your profession, or maybe you're working on completing continuing education for your degree. All of those things are considered mental self-care, and they really allow you to grow your energy and your outlook on life, because they help your mind to move out of like a mental ruts and solve problems. They challenge your mind. It feeds you mentally. It helps you practice like thinking outside the box, right? Something that I've enjoyed a lot lately, we'll go off on a little story time here, is I've really enjoyed doodling lately. When I was younger, I used to really enjoy art, and I don't do it so much at all actually anymore. And I, on Instagram, came across this account called The Creative Cool Down, and she basically uses art and doodling as a form of self-care. And she has this 100 days of creative expression through art where she is challenging us. Each week, she'll send an email that she challenges us to do some kind of new creative form of art for the week. And it's truly been so phenomenal because she helps you tap into your creativity for self-care. And last week, she actually had us like learning to use lines and drawing tails of animals and leaves and just using like the delicacy of lines to kind of go through that. And that helped to focus, calm your minds, as well as like challenge it to see like what other lines do you see here. And it was so cool and beautiful to see what was produced from that, like artistically, right? So when you're thinking of mental self-care, things like that you maybe like already do, or things that you want to practice more of, think of things that stimulate your mind to thinking again outside of the box, challenging it, doing something more creative for you. You know, it's so cool and interesting on how you can challenge your mind to do things like that, right? The third is physical self-care. And this is really like what most people consider self-care, right? It's pertaining to your body and anything that you need to physically feel at your best, right? And it can be anything from healthier, nourishing diet to maybe getting your steps in for the day, exercising, improving sleeping habits, maybe taking care of your skin, maybe putting more effort into your personal appearance, whatever it is physically. And this is going to be, again, different for everyone. But the questions you need to ask yourself are, what goals do I want to accomplish for me physically, right? How do I want to feel about myself physically? Like, am I happy with where I'm at? Am I appreciating my body for what it is? Do I want to change, evolve, grow, right? What do I want my body to project? What do I want my body to embody, right? And then what steps do I need to take to get there? Or what am I already doing? Again, bring it back to what are you already doing to physically take care of yourself, and don't take those things lightly because you already are doing self-care. If you're already doing self-care, please appreciate that piece of what you're doing, right? The next and the fourth type of self-care is social self-care. And this is one that I think many don't think about regularly, especially because a lot of times we feel like as moms, like we have to carry this like weight. We carry this invisible weight with us. And it's difficult for us to ask for help. So I feel like it's one that many of us don't think about regularly. And I know that I didn't think about it regularly either, because I consider myself like a huge introvert. And many of the ways that I refuel are more introspective. They're not necessarily like quote social, right? But the fact is, absolute fact, scientific evidence, that loneliness and social isolation are associated with higher rates of depression, suicide, and death. And again, that's like a known fact. So your social self-care is extremely important, whatever it is that needs to look like for you, right? Who are you surrounding yourself with? How are you nourishing those relationships, and how are those relationships like nourishing you? Which relationships are more a point of stress for you, and which are almost like tougher for you to handle, which are more draining, right? And again, the beautiful thing about all these types of self-care is that there's no right or wrong with it, because social activities that can be helpful to one person, like going out late night with girlfriends and getting a drink or going out to dinner or whatever, might not be the best for someone else. Like for me, I much prefer like a nice cozy night at home, quiet, than with my friends, right? Than going out, clubbing, doing all that. But some people like live for that extra social piece of it, right? So you have to acknowledge and be aware of and meet yourself where you're at and appreciate yourself for where you're at and what it is that you need, right? So when you are thinking about your social self-care, think about what it is that am I doing that I'm fueling my social self-care, right? And so what am I already doing, and what parts do I need to foster? Which relationships do I want to nourish more? Are there some relationships that I want to scale back on for my own emotional safety, right? Like what do I need to more, which relationships do I need to have more boundaries on? Right? Those are all questions for you to notice and also appreciate. Where are you already doing those things? Right? That is self-care for you. That is your blueprint. That is what you need. All right, the fifth type of self-care is spiritual self-care. And spiritual self-care is really anything that helps you develop a deeper sense of meaning and understanding for your life. It can be an organized religion. It can be believing that there is just a higher power. It can be your felt sense experience of what being spiritual is for you, right? Like being in nature. Whatever it is that gives you that meaning and understanding for your life and helps you get in tune with beliefs and values that like guide your life are what spiritual self-care is. So again, it's so many different things to so many different people. And no one way is the quote right way. It's important for you to understand what it is that you connect with and need, because that's the only way that you can grow within that, right? And what is it that you're already doing? Like, are you already, I'll give you some examples. Are you practicing prayer already? Are you practicing meditation? Do you have any spiritual advisors that you meet with? Do you have any mentors that you meet with to help you understand meaning, guide your life? Do you have anybody with you that like supports your values that you can talk to about that helps you foster your spiritual needs, right? All of these things help provide comfort and strength in your day-to-day, but also in those tougher times where we seem to be like we just need that extra piece of meaning and belief, right? That's what it means to practice spiritual self-care for yourself. Okay. And finally, the sixth type of self-care. You ready? It's financial self-care. Yes, I said financial. I said money. Focusing your time and your energy on money. Making plans and goals for a better financial future for yourself, for your family. Finding ways to support a healthy money mindset. Yes, that is considered self-care. Okay, celebrate yourself if you do it already. And if you don't do it yet, it's okay that you don't do it yet. Today is a brand new day. You can do it. If it's something that you want to do, you can do it. Okay? And it is no secret, right, that financial pressures are a common source of stress, especially with families and moms, and we're working and we got to pay the bills and we got to take care of the kids and all of that. And it's almost like this pressure changes from this financial pressure changes from one day to the next. One day you are married, you too. And then the next day it's like baby and boom, daycare, childcare, schools, diapers, everything, after school activities, extracurricular activities, toys, clothes, food, everything. Right, so that level of being aware and taking control of your finances can help alleviate some of that anxiety that maybe could have grown around it, right? And if you already practice this, again, it's so amazing that you already do. Give yourself like credit for that. And if you don't, like, just hold space and give yourself grace. Because when you start practicing things like budgeting, identifying financial goals, paying off student debts and loans, like it will feel stressful. It will feel heavy. It can feel overwhelming. You can feel shame. You can feel like, how do I have such debt with my credit cards? Or how have I let it get this far, right? Give yourself grace, right? Take time to love and appreciate like that part of yourself. That is self-care alone. That is self-care alone. And decide, like, in that moment, right? Like, decide, like, let's say this is something that you want to work on for you, right? And this is a type of self-care that you want to work on. Like, decide that you'll be a student in learning about your finances, about money. Honestly, that's what I'm doing. It's never been something that I've been, I'm going to say, quote, good at, right? That I regularly do. But it's something that I am proud to say, and that has helped me work through, like, being more, having a healthier money mindset, is to tell myself, like, I am a student, I'm learning about finances, about money, right? And over time, you'll get this sense of peace, get this sense of peace of mind that you, like, will feel more in control of that part of your life and about your future, right? So those are the different types of self-care, and we've gone over 6. So we went over emotional, mental self-care, physical self-care, spiritual self-care, social, and of course financial self-care. And again, just go back, think about those, and acknowledge what you're already doing. Okay, reframe the way that you see some of your daily habits, because many of them are already self-care, and acknowledge that. Acknowledge what you do. In fact, write it down. Write it down, take a picture of it, and tag me on Instagram. Put it in your story and tag me on Instagram, because I want to celebrate you for what you're doing. Okay? And then from there, ask yourself, like, what do you want to do more of in your life? What do you want to add to that blueprint that you already have? What self-care activities do you want to do more of in your life? And what is your body calling you to do more of? And listen to where it's being drawn, and then one step at a time, do that. And a combination of the things that you already do, plus the things that you want to work on and grow through, are again like the blueprint of what you need to take care of and support you, like your holistic script, right? So get to loving on you, and I will be catching you in the next episode. Chat soon.